Hello and welcome to the Monsters, Myths, and Mayhem podcast. Special number dose.
Dose.
I was trying to think of dose in a different language and couldn't think of it.
Duh.
Duh?
Duh.
Is that dose in Spanish?
In French. Un, deux, trois, quatre, cinq, six, sept.
That is why Chaotic is our linguist.
No. Do not put that pressure on me.
I have no clue what we are covering today.
Yeah.
I'm in a better brain mood this week, though, than last week. So,
Woohoo! Both brain silvers are loved and cherished, so it doesn't matter.
it might be because I'm also have 3 energy drinks today, so.
Fucking Christ, my guy. Don't do that. Anyways.
My energy drinks are V8 energies.
Okay, that's a little better than most people's energies, so I'll let you have that.
It was 2 of those and a large Dunkin' Donuts sparkling sparked energy from this morning.
So you really had 4.
I mean,
because that Dunkin' Donuts large does not count as 1. That does not count as 1. Anyways, we have gathered here today to talk about the Brothers Grimm Cinderella.
Cinderella.
Have you heard of the Brothers Grimm Cinderella?
I have.
You have. What do you know about it? Stop looking for your Brothers Grimm and talk to me.
I have heard that there is a lady who goes to a ball, loses a shoe, and there is some toe
mutilation. Yes, sir. So I'm just gonna read this one. Okay, I'm just gonna read this one. For the most part, I'm not gonna read the whole thing because it gets a little weird. But I'm gonna read you guys the beginning so that we understand the premise of this. Then I'm gonna kind of skip into what happens. Okay.
Was this one 15 pages? Like,
no, it is not 15 pages. It is not that bad. But it is still pretty long. So I'm gonna show you guys the basics. We're gonna get a feel for the caricatures, and then we're gonna yeet into it. Okay.
Do they got a big head and big smile and that type of caricatures?
Yeah, exactly. So a rich man's wife became sick, and when she felt that her end was drawing near, she called only her daughter to her bedside and said, "Dear child, remain pious and good. Then our dear God will always protect you, and I will look down at you from the heaven and be near you." So then her mom died. She went to her mother's grave every day, and she wept. But due to her mother's promise, she remained pious and good. When winter came, the snow spread a white cloth over the grave, and the spring sun removed it again. And then the man took himself another wife, meaning that her father married another after 2 seasons. "Why would that stupid goose sit in the parlor with us?" they said. "If she wants to eat bread, then she will have to earn it. Out with this kitchen maid." First of all, I don't know who they were talking to, because that's fucked up. They just called his daughter a goose. First of all, we just popped off with that. That's not a vibe. Then they called her a kitchen maid. And then they take away all of her fancy clothes, all of her beautiful things, gives her an old gray smock and some wooden shoes. And then they call her a proud princess and make fun of how decked out she is. It's fucked up. Okay. So then she's constantly doing their work. We all know the story of Cinderella. She's constantly making their food. She's constantly getting the fire going. She's constantly taking care of the animals. She's doing all of these things. They make fun of her, and they scatter like peas and lentils into the ashes and make her pick them up like one by one. They don't give her a bed. She like sleeps in the ashes. It's awful. Okay. They called her Cinderella because she was constantly sleeping in the dirt. So Cinderella.
Sleeping in the cinders.
Hilarious. One day it happened that her father was going to a fair, so he asked his 2 stepdaughters what he should bring back for them. Let me just stop right there. The fact that this man is letting them do this to his daughter, unforgivable. Anyways, "Beautiful dresses," said one. "Pearls and jewels," said the other. "And you, Cinderella," he said, "what do you want?" "Father, break off for me the first twig that brushes against your hat on the way home." So he literally does that. He gets beautiful dresses and all kinds of jewels and riches, and then a hazel twig brushes his hat, and he takes it off, brings it to his daughter, gives the other 2 their shit that they wanted. She thanks him, goes to her mother's grave, and plants the branch in the, like around the grave. She wept so much there that she watered it, and it ends up becoming a beautiful tree, which I'm sure takes a lot of time. I don't feel like this was a magical tree. I feel like this was like this for a while. Cinderella went to the tree 3 times a day, and beneath it she would weep and pray, and a white bird came to the tree every time, and whenever she expressed a wish, the bird would throw down what she wished for. So now we got a magical fucking tree, okay? It's wild.
And magic bird.
Yes. And so then the king is like, ooh, festival. It's going to be 3 days. Everybody's invited. And the girls are like, Cinderella, do all of our shit. Comb our hair, brush our shoes. That was a weird sentence. Fasten our buckles. We're going to the festival at the king's castle. So Cinderella's like, yeah, absolutely. And she's like, I would like to go. And her stepmother's like, ha, hilarious. You're covered in dirt and dust. You're disgusting. Absolutely not. And I wonder why she's disgusting. What a weird time. And she's brother, I have scattered a bowl of lentils in the ashes for you. If you can pick them up again in 2 hours, you may go with us. This is the challenge that her stepmother presents to her. But because Cinderella kept asking, they go through the garden or whatever, and she goes outside while they're all gone and is like, oh my God, pigeons, turtle doves, birds, come help me. Like, come help me do the thing. The rhyme is the good ones into the pot, the bad ones go into your crop. 2 white pigeons come in, some turtle doves come in. They all kind of like help her pick all of these up. Which, by the way, fun fact, this version and Charles, I think Charles something was the first original version. Between those 2 versions is Into the Woods. I love Into the Woods. If you've not watched it, you should. It's a wonderful musical. But that's the Cinderella that one's based off. It's not a glass shoe, it's a golden shoe. It's very interesting. You should watch it. So then she takes the bowl to her stepmom. She's like, look, I did it. I did all the things. And her stepmom is like, no, you still don't have clothes. Like, you're not coming. So Cinderella's very upset. She's like, whatever. And then she throws 2 bowls of lentils into the ashes and is like, pick them up in an hour because she'll never be able to do that, blah, blah, blah. She gets the motherfuckers to come back. The birds come back. And they get it together. She takes it to her stepmom. She's like, look, I actually did it. And her stepmom's like, nah, it's no use. You don't have clothes, my dude, and you can't come. So then she just leaves. She's just like, bye. And Cinderella goes to her mom's grave. And she's like, shake and quiver, little tree. Throw gold and silver down to me. So they throw a gold and silver dress down to her. Slippers with silk and silver. And she puts on the dress and she just goes. She's like, you know what? Fuck it. We ball. We're going to go to the festival, whether they care or not. And nobody recognizes her because she was in like drab and dreary and dirt. And now she's this majestic queen. And naturally the prince is like, that one, that's the one I want. That's my dance partner. And then she's like, well, I gotta go. So she eludes him. She jumps into a pigeon coop. The prince waits for her. Nothing happens. This unknown girl just jumped into a pigeon coop. Okay. And the old man's like, could it be Cinderella? No, it's fine. So then they get an axe and a pick. They try to break the pigeon coop apart. Nobody's there. Poof, gone. Cinderella be gone. When they get home, Cinderella's lying in the ashes. She's in her dirty clothes. They're like, nah, it ain't her. It's fine. It was fine. She took off her beautiful clothes and she laid them next to the grave, and the bird took them away again. Then she dressed in her gray smock and in her ashes. Then the next day, the festival is new again. So guess what she does? She goes back to her mother's grave. She says a little rhyme. She gets her dresses and shit back. Actually, I take that back. She gets an even more magnificent dress the second day because deserved. And then she goes the second day, and instead of a pigeon coop, she climbs into a pear tree. So upon her exit, she said, you know what looks real nice? That pear tree. And the prince, being the smartest prince in the world, is like, oh no, where'd she go? Oh no. So anyways, she drops her shoe. It's a golden shoe this time, which is the mix between this and Charles. So it's the golden shoe this time. It's not the silver shoe. He's like, I'm going to find this lady because I can't remember what she fucking looks like. And I'm going to try this shoe on every hoe in the kingdom. So this is where Silver's toe mutilation comes in, okay? So he's trying the shoe on everybody. He gets to the stepsisters. And the mom is like, cut off your toe. When you're queen, you will no longer have to go on foot anyways. Who gives a fuck about this toe? So she snips, cut off her toe, okay? Cut off her toe.
Don't need them.
Cut it off. Okay, the prince rides away. Like, yo, you're right. That's absolutely her. Can't see any blood. Totally right. These two pigeons get on his carriage and they're like, there's blood in the shoe. The shoe is too tight. This bride is not right. And then he looks down and he's like, oh, you're so fucking right. Like, there's blood in that. That's disgusting. So he goes back, right? He goes back to this house.
That was a great rhyme.
I thought
Right
so
there.
too. I thought so too. So he goes back to their house and he's like, yo, what about this one? So then she's like, what does she cut off? Her heel. She cuts her heel off. Cut off a piece of your heel when you are a queen. You will no longer have to go on foot. Mom's got sound logic. So what does the prince do? Naturally, without checking for blood, he's like, yeah, go ahead and get in the carriage. You're it. I forgot. You're totally right. The birds land on the carriage. There's blood in the shoe. The shoe is too tight. This bride is not right. He comes back and he's like, this one's not right. This ain't right. Don't you have another daughter? The man, the father, the fucking dude says, no, there is only a deformed Cinderella from my first wife. But she cannot possibly be the bride. The prince says, send her to me, and the mother answers, she is much too dirty, she cannot be seen. But the prince insisted, and they had to call Cinderella. She washed her hands and face clean, and then went and bowed before the prince, who gave her the golden shoe. She sat down on a stool, pulled out her foot on the heavy wooden shoe, and put it into the slipper, and it fitted her perfectly. The stepmother and two sisters were horrified and turned pale with anger. The prince, however, took Cinderella onto his horse and rode away with her. No blood's in the shoe. The shoe is not too tight. This bride is right, the pigeons yell, because they're on the correct side. After they cried this out, they both flew down and stood on Cinderella's shoulders, one on the right, one on the left, and they sit there the whole time majestically. When the wedding with the prince was to be held, the two false sisters came, wanting to gain favor with Cinderella to share her good fortune. When the bride couple walked into the church, the older sister walked on their right side and the younger on their left, and the pigeons pecked their eyes out from each of them. Afterwards, as they came out of the church, the older one was on the left and the younger was on the right, and the pigeons pecked out the other eye from each of them. Thus, for their wickedness and falsehood, they were punished with blindness for as long as they could live. The moral of the story is don't be a dick. I chose Brothers Grimm Cinderella just because there was blood involved. Figured that was very October-esque.
Yeah. That Cinderella is pretty much a D&D druid. Climbs a tree, goes into a pigeon coop and just disappears. Probably wild shaped into a pigeon. Met those two pigeons of the princess, made friends.
Accidentally planted a tree, it's magical. They're dropping her fucking dresses and shit. Definitely a druid. 10 out of 10.
That's a good story.
Mm-hmm. I felt like my gangster storytelling skills really added to it.
That it did a lot. the modern Cinderella. Fathers in these tales are never usually the smartest.
No, true.
Cinderella is one of those tales that get adapted a lot.
Yeah, a lot.
Do you have a favorite adaptation of Cinderella?
I really do like Into the Woods. That's one of my favorite like fairy tale movies. It includes a little bit of everything. It has the Baker and the Baker's Wife. It has Jack and the Beanstalk. It has the Golden Goose. It has Little Red Riding Hood. It has the Big Bad Wolf. It has Rapunzel. It has the Witch of the Wood. It has gosh, there's so much. It has so much in it, and I love it so much. It's a genuinely good story, and Cinderella's story in that is really empowering because she actually becomes queen and realizes like it's not worth it. Like the prince is still unfaithful, he's still a piece of shit. Like she's unhappy with what she thought she wanted because of her stepsisters. A modernized version of Cinderella that I like a lot is Cinderella Story featuring Hilary Duff and Chad Michael Murray. One of my favorite modernized adaptations.
Is that when she comes from the fairy tale world to the...
No, that's Enchanted.
Oh.
That's a good one. That's Cinderella-esque. It's not completely Cinderella. It's kind of like a mix between Cinderella, Snow White, and like Rapunzel.
Okay.
But the Cinderella Story is it's definitely a modernized version. Her father died when she was young. He married Fiona and her two daughters. And they're kind of witches to her. Her stepmother kind of like always tells her she's not worth anything, and she's trying to get into Princeton, which is where the royalty comes in. And she's talking to this guy who also wants to go to Princeton, but like his father won't let him. He's very romantic, he's very poetic, and it ends up being the big jock football guy that like nobody would think would be like poetic or whatever. And she's just like she's Cinderella, so she's made fun of a lot. She works in a diner, she doesn't wear pretty clothes, she's not considered like popular or hot. And they end up falling in love with each other, and they don't know who each other is. And then it gets outed by the stepsisters. And he kind of like, as per usual, turns into a dick. And is like, oh, I can't be seen with you, like BS. And then it has a happy ending, blah, blah, blah. But it's a really good movie. It includes baseball. It has a lot of really good songs in it. It was like a staple turning point in my adolescent age. I loved it a lot.
The only real Cinderella one I can think of off the top of my head right now is just Disney's.
Disney's Cinderella is great. I think it's a great one. They didn't do terrible about it. There's even a Cinderella 2 in there.
Wait, there's a second Cinderella?
Yeah, there's like a
Disney?
second. There might be a third, but there's definitely a second.
I just Googled Cinderella movie list and IMDb came through. Can you guess what number 1 is?
Cinderella from Disney.
Nope. It's 2004, A Cinderella Story with Hilary Duff.
Hell yeah.
There is 3. It's Cinderella 2, Dreams Come True, and Cinderella 3, A Twist in Time. I did not know about those 2.
A shady version of Cinderella is the Cinderella that's in Shrek. I think it's Shrek 2 Ever After. I think it's Shrek 2. It's either Shrek 2 or Shrek 3. It might be 3.
Which Cinderella isn't there?
It's 2 when she appears, but I think it's 3 when she betrays Fiona.
Oh.
But she's a bitch. I like lots of Cinderella adaptations. Cinderella is just a good old-fashioned, the people being dicks get what they deserve kind of story.
Happily Never After. I've heard of that one.
That's a good one. Another Cinderella story, which is, I believe Selena Gomez. That's a good one. It's like a dance one. That one's pretty good. There's a lot of Cinderella.
Cinderella 3D, a modern take on Cinderella set in the backdrop of the Wild West, featuring a cast of furry and feathery friends.
We need to watch that. There's also a book, Cinder. She has like a whole series of like adaptations like that and I'm pretty sure in that one she's a robot. Yeah, it's like a steampunk story.
Huh. I like steampunk.
Yes, you do.
I know we didn't do this last week because my brain was fried.
Mm-hmm.
But we can do it this week.
Uh-huh.
We can do both this week.
Uh-huh.
Are we going to place the Little Mermaid and Cinderella in the school?
Are we placing Cinderella in her royal state or in her cinder state?
Your choice.
If we're placing her in her royal state, she'd be like prom queen, head bitch in charge. You know what I mean? Without being a bitch. Because original Cinderella is not a dick. Just Shrek Cinderella, okay? And I think if we were in the cinder stages of things, she'd be like on the janitor team. She'd be living her best life.
She could help bringing the animals in to clean up all the trash.
Mm-hmm. I feel like the Little Mermaid would have to be a lifeguard.
Yeah.
Like there's just she'd have to be. She'd be saving people,
She's already got a good track record with that.
Mm-hmm.
1.
Yeah. I mean, she's 1 for 1. So you can't go wrong. She's obviously saved a life.
Well, 1 out of the rest of the ship.
Yeah, but she was only intending to save 1. So the intention was 1 to 1. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, 1 to 1.
But that's it for Cinderella. Thank you to our patrons of Mondi, Ruby, and Mage. There's no news for me besides it's harvest season and farm season still, so that's why all these episodes are later.
Correct.
Plus, I have bad brain days, so.
Which you're allowed to have.
Chaotic, do you have any news or updates?
No.
Neither do I.
No. I think last episode I discussed, like, things are a little kind of on pause. Because of monsters, in case of monsters break glass. Because of monsters. In case of monsters break glass is on a semi-pause. Bird and I, in my spare time on Thursdays. So the way my Thursdays look are I come home, I take my child to an appointment, I fix dinner, I write our Kindle novella, and then I get on here and do podcasts, and then I go to bed. So I don't have, and that's for Thursdays are my only free day right now. When haunt season's over and I get my Fridays and Saturdays back, it'll be a little easier. So we'll get back into writing. It's not a complete series. It's not done. We will get back into In Case of Monsters Break Glass. It is just on pause right now. Book podcast is also kind of on pause right now. It's just really hard to find the time to edit and or teach Bird to edit and or record and or read. I don't think I've touched a book, and I really would like to. I started our book that we're doing for the month, Butcher and Blackbird, and haven't gotten to read it since I touched it. And speaking of our Kindle Vella, we are on episode 15. So if you guys have not read it yet, you should get on it. And you get like a ton of free keys, so you won't have to pay for like ever.
Hey, I'm going to start posting the links to them in the Discord.
Yes. We're at 15. We're stagnant at 15 likes, and we have 2 comments. Even if you guys do not read books, if you just go onto our Kindle Vella link and you do so much as like it, share it, comment on it, leave a review, even if you don't read it, that helps us get our outreach out there. That helps us get more names. That helps us get more seen, and it helps us get into the flow of being seen on the actual Vella app. So it will help us get and hopefully earn money off of it someday before our big novel release. So, yes.
Yes.
That's it.
Oh, I just remembered. I didn't mention it last time, but we did have a big jump in followers, so all new followers. Yeah. Thank you and welcome in.
Yeah.
We're now above the first generation of Pokemon in followers.
Who are you people? And insert Patrick meme of him staring at the eyes under the rock.
And with that, chaotic with the outro.
Do, 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 do. Do,
it's
do,
John Cena.
I'm so glad you knew. Thank you for listening to the Monsters, Myths, and Mayhem podcast. Silver and Chaotic take you into the depth of the lore and discuss how these legends could affect modern-day society. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or almost any podcast service easiest to you. Dive into the depths of chaos with us every Wednesday, bar Silver and Chaotic not missing their scheduling, and consider joining the podcast Discord or Twitter following even more insider looks and even some D&D sessions. If you'd like some extra special inside looks or even want to be a guest on the show, consider helping us via Patreon. Your help makes such a big difference to us both. Until next time, Mythics, you never know what kind of mayhem we might get into.